I went home and I just couldn't stop thinking about her.
When you're in country and you're sitting still and idle, that's a bad sign.
She no longer had a heartbeat. She wasn't breathing. That was the first one on the chest. I started compressions first.
Need advocates. We need people that are going to hold companies, government, hold these people accountable.
Welcome back to the Heroes Debrief. We're continuing on with Tom Kelsch, a United States Marine and current nurse. Check out the previous episodes with Tom in the links below. And as a disclaimer, we want to be sure that you're aware that some of the content that is a part of these episodes is not appropriate for sensitive audiences. So if you have individuals around, we highly suggest that you wind up putting in some earbuds and listening to the podcast that way. So there's another journey there.
Yep.
Is it when you're getting through your enlistment, which was pretty tumultuous, whatever that word is. And then what did you decide that you were going to do when you were coming up on re-enlisting or transitioning?
Yeah, I thought about re-enlisting, and I'd asked the I don't know if he's the internal recruiter, but I can't remember the nomenclature for the guy that when you re-enlist. I was talking to him, and I said, what's my odds of getting out of the squadron or changing military occupational skill? I said, I just don't want to do this no more. And he said, well, your Marine Corps pays that you're one of the highest level for being enlisted, school wise, the Marine Corps is not going to allow you to basically degrade yourself, even though you're not. You know what I mean? So I could go into avionics. That was my only other option.
What rank were you
at that time? I was a corporal.
Okay, so E5,
E4,
E4. Okay,
and I know I didn't want to do any avionics stuff. I mean, because we were basically doing the same stuff as an ordnance man, and I was like, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get out. It's time for me to go.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So decided you're not doing the Marines.
Yep. My goal was then I wanted to open up a gym. I just wanted to get hardcore into training. I wanted to put my time into being a better power lifter and just see where that went. I wanted to be a personal trainer. I wanted to help people because I thought if I helped people in a positive way, that maybe I'd find a better place in heaven because of the bad stuff that I've seen and done throughout my life. That if you help people out, maybe that'll make up for it. I mean, that's what my thought process was.
Mm-hmm. That's what you were striving for at that time.
At that time, yeah. Yep.
So how'd the gym work out for you?
It worked out good. We opened it up with my, when I got out, I struggled for a couple of years. I lived in my mom's basement. I was lost. At that time, I didn't know what I had. I just knew I wasn't feeling right. Later on in life, I found out that I had PTSD from this stuff, but I was lost. And at that point, I was heavily drinking, working out, but heavily drinking, trying to mask my pain. And then I just made a switch, and I put everything into powerlifting, and I just kind of masked all my depression. If I'm tired from working out, then I'm going to go home and I'm going to sleep, and I'm not going to have to think about nothing.
Right.
So my brother knew that I had a passion with wanting to open up a gym, because I always talked about it when I'd come home on leave and different things. And then we had an opportunity that he helped me out, and I opened up a gym called Briggs Fitness Center. That was in Muskegon, in Wolf Lake, East Muskegon, and it was open for about 5 years. And it got to the point where after 9/11 hit, the insurance kind of tripled in price for liability insurance, and then same thing with the building insurance. And we just figured it was the time to sell and get out of it.
So
that was in 94 when we finally, or not 2004. I'm sorry.
I think
we opened it up in 99.
Okay. I think that you're the first veteran that I've talked to that is not post 9/11. So that's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
What I mean, just real briefly, like, what was your perspective and kind of like, what were your thoughts on when September?
Oh, I was
11
pissed. I was
Yeah,
pissed.
Sure.
I wanted to re-enlist. But I was like, I went down, and again, I talked to the recruiter, and they were just like, well, you might want to try to go in the Army. He said, because you'd be air wing again. And I
Hmm.
said, I don't want to do that. I don't know. And then, I just like, if I can't be a Marine, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it,
Hmm.
and, but I have, no offense to any of their branches. It's just, I'm hardcore Marine Corps. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just, it is what it is on that aspect.
Sure.
I was mad. You know what I mean? You attacked our soil. Last time that happened, it was, Pearl Harbor.
Right.
We need to go. We need to take care of this stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was horrible.
So, you get out of the gym business, I guess,
Yep.
having your gym or whatever. What was your next step?
Next step was that I was struggling. I was training for a national powerlifting meet in 2002. And at the time, we didn't close till 2004, but in 2002, I was training for a national powerlifting meet, which had been a world qualifier. And my numbers they were good. I mean,
Mhm.
I probably, I would have set records, and I would have, I eventually would have went on to the worlds, and I would have won it with what I was lifting in the gym and what I was going to potentially hit at the meet. Well, I hurt my shoulder, and
Okay.
then it was 6 weeks out from the contest, and I couldn't do it, and then that just spiraled me with depression
Mhm.
for about 2 years. I
Okay.
didn't touch weight. I didn't lift the weight. Just drank, ran the gym, and one day I don't know. I woke up and I said, this isn't good.
Mhm.
I think I'm gonna become a nurse, because what better way to help people than to become a nurse? And that'll find my way into better place in heaven.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds crazy, but everyone asks me, why'd you become a nurse? Because they look at me and they're like, if someone was to see me outside of work, outside of scrubs, I mean, you would never think I'd be a nurse. You know what I mean?
So the first time I met you was when I was going through uh, my internship clinicals for being a paramedic. I met you at the hospital.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And it was the I had that thought. It's like, that guy doesn't look like a nurse.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean,
So-
when people see me in public, usually they ask me if I'm a police officer.
Mhm. I
And
could
said,
see
no.
that.
I said, no, I'm a
Yeah.
police officer.
Mhm.
And, so you'll never guess in a million years what I do for a living, and they can't guess it.
Yeah.
You know.
So what was you decided to get into nursing? But what'd you have to do to wind up becoming a nurse, I guess?
Well, that's another story there, because I did so poorly in school, high school. I went to the college, Muskegon Community College, and I called them up and set up a time to take the entrance exam. And I got there, and I saw nothing but young kids, even though I was pretty much a kid too at the time. I think I was 26, 27, actually a little older, maybe 28. 28, I think it was.
Mhm.
And I was like, I can't do this, man. So I panicked. I had a panic attack. I went
Did
back out to my truck.
Did you realize it was a panic attack?
No, that was my first panic attack ever.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize it until later on, what it was. Seen tunnel vision, and you're just kind of tripping out, and you're like, I gotta get out of here,
Right.
And so I left and continued to drink hard for another couple months, and then I decided I got to go back. Something told me I got to go back. I have to quit this. I have to get back into the gym. I have to become who I was, and I have to have the ultimate goal of being a better person for society and myself. And failure is not an option.
Mhm.
I'm going. So I called them up again and got a date to take the test, and I took the test. 3 days later, they called and they said, is this Mr. Kelsch? I said, yep. So this is so and so from the school. Wanted to let you know that got some news for you. I said, okay, cool. And she goes, well, we got some good news and we got some bad news. And I said, she goes, what do you want to hear first? And I said, just give me the bad news. She goes, well, the bad news is that you failed your entrance exam. I said, oh, great. She goes, no, but the good news is you still can be a student here. And I want you to come in tomorrow and we'll discuss everything. And then we'll go from there. So all night I'm thinking, oh, great. Can't even pass the damn test to get into college, a community college, So I go in there and she goes over my tests and she goes, well, the bad news is here you have a third grade reading level. You have an even lower math level. And, your reading and comprehension is probably second grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. She goes, but I'm going to take you downstairs. I'm going to introduce you to some instructors. And if you're willing, you can be taught and brought up to par so you can retake the test. And I was like, okay. And as we're walking down it was in actually the basement at the college. She goes, this is where we lose 99% of everybody in your age group that are in your situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at her and I said, failure's not an option. Let's keep going.
So your dedication to that, was that from the Marine Corps, or was that just a part of your personality from weight training at such a young age?
I think it was probably 60% Marine Corps and the other 40 was dedication. When I went down there, I literally spent 2 years paying for classes to be able to get smart enough and educated enough to pass the basic entrance exam to a community college.
To go to school again.
Failure was not an option.
That's profound, man. That's really good. So, So you end up did 2 years of getting brought up to par, and then you start your nursing program, which was how much more?
It was they say, associates, but it ends up being like almost 3 years. So it's like 2 years and like 8 months because the way they have a ladder system with the nursing program. So I started, I forget what year it was, but I got up to the third class. I passed it. And I thought some of the instructors were really hard at that time on males because it's 97 predominantly female.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, they, like when we did regular tests, I passed them, but we had to do like test outs. So you had to do like actual physical stuff, like on a mannequin or like making a bed, just different stuff like that. They teach you how to make that stuff. So they failed me on everything. All the hands-on stuff, the test, what they call the test outs.
Mm-hmm.
I never passed one the first time. And then the second time I took it, I passed. So it was just a big mental game. You know what I mean? They were just messing with me, but they couldn't mess with me because failure wasn't an option.
Right.
And I told the one nurse, I was like, one of the instructors, I said, you can't mess with me mentally because I've had the best of the best in the world mess with me mentally, and they didn't win.
So when they were doing that with you in nursing, did you pick up on it right away?
Oh yeah, I picked up on it right away. Yeah, I knew. I knew what they were doing, but they weren't going to kill them with kindness. You know what I mean? But eventually, at the end, I was like, you weren't going to break me.
Mm-hmm.
Only the Marine Corps broke me, and you ain't breaking me.
How'd they respond to that?
They just looked at me, and we kind of giggled, in the end. But at that point, I'd already passed, the nursing.
Yeah.
So I went back, and the Marine Corps taught you, you do your job first, then you bitch about it later.
Mm.
And I confronted her.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to let that go.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I already had, I already passed school. So
we tend to have to say something, don't we?
Yeah, she can't fail me.
Make sure all your ducks are in a row, and then you'll get after.
Yeah.
No, I get that. So where did you start out coming out of the nursing program? Like, with nurses, there's a lot of different capacities to work as a nurse.
So I got a job at a local hospital on their general med floor / renal floor. So you take care of renal patients.
Okay.
And I did that for about 6 months. And then the place, it's a union facility. So they shut down a rehab facility, and those nurses had the option to bump in anywhere in the hospital. So one of the nurses chose my job.
Okay.
So I ended up getting bumped off that job to work on the cardiac floor part-time, 24 hours a week, step-down unit. So it's like it's kind of step-down unit from the ICU. At that time, it was called cardiac floor. But I worked on that for a few months, and then I realized that, this is only part-time. I need to make more money. I need to, So I applied. A couple of my friends worked at LTAC, which is long-term acute care. So it's basically ICU patients, a little bit longer stay, then you get them better, then you get them out of there. And I knew it would be a good place for me to learn a lot of stuff. I'd learn overall better nursing, wound care, cardiac stuff, the whole 9 yards. So I went over there, and because I got bumped out of my job, I was going to get bumped out of that second position. I talked to HR, I talked to my manager, and they said, we won't hold it against you if you take that other job. We'll make sure that you're rehirable. If you see a posting on the website, or if you hear of any, and it goes out to the public, give me a call, and I'll make sure that you get an interview. So I worked at the other place for a year and 3 months, I think it was. And I kept looking. The last 3 months, I was getting burnt out of that place. I wanted to go back in the hospital because I want to be an ER nurse.
Mhm.
My whole thing was I want to be an ER nurse because that's where it's at. That's where I felt that I could make a difference.
So right from the beginning, you wanted to be ER.
ER.
Okay.
But at the time, the hospital kind of, if you didn't have a couple years med surge experience and you weren't like a medic before you became a nurse, it really was really hard to get into the ER. They just didn't. It didn't happen. And it was union facility too, so it was all about seniority too. So
Is that pretty standard now?
not now. No.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
Because that's nothing that I've even contemplated before. Coming from the first response world, it was just kind of like you're doing the 911 system. You're
Right,
doing
yeah.
emergency.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. So that's interesting. But so it took you a while to get.
It did, yeah. And it actually landed out perfect because there was a position that was a 3 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. no weekend position. Now you would think that that's an awesome job. I mean it is, but at the time, nurses were getting paid time and a half on Saturday and time and a half on Sunday, so they would be losing about $15,000 a year to take that no weekend position.
Okay.
And 3 to 3 in the ER is literally the hardest shift to work because you're coming in when it's extremely busy and you're busy until you leave. And it just wasn't appealing to anybody. So I watched it. I was only out. It literally hit the public for a day.
Mhm.
And I called it. I called the HR and said, hey, blah, blah, blah. And literally 2 days later, I had an interview.
Yeah.
They upheld to their word.
What year was this about?
That was 2010. And I became a nurse in 2008.
So this would have been, you would have got to the ER probably like a year or two before we met then.
Yes.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So anything significant that we're missing prior to getting into the ER?
Oh,
really?
yeah. I got a little funny story kind of. So on the day of my interview, the manager at the time said, hey, I'm going to walk you through, this is my second interview. So I interviewed, and then I had a second interview, and actually that's when they told me that we accept you. And she said, I want to take you out on the floor, and I want to introduce you to who I want to be your preceptor, and introduce you to kind of like some of the nurses that work day shift because you're going to orient on day shift. I said, okay, cool. So I go out there and
is this in the ER?
it's in the ER.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And so she introduces me to the guy that was going to precept me, and he's hardcore, man. He was a paramedic down in the Key West when he was younger. He was a nurse for 20 some years at that time. Hardcore, just a badass nurse, man. I mean, if you think ER nurse, he is the picture perfect ER nurse. You know what I mean? So she introduces him, and I held my hand out to shake his hand. And he looked right at me, wouldn't shake my hand. He says, I don't orient stupid nurses, and walked away. And I looked at my manager, and I was like, I hope I'm not stupid. Yeah. So that was the environment that I started, and I had to prove myself. And there's a few incidences where I earned his respect, and we ended up being very good friends, and he was a good mentor. And
Is he still around?
Oh no, he retired.
Okay.
Yep, he's living a good life, retired. Lucky bastard.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
So, how much time did you spend in the ER?
2010 until 2022, I think it was. So 12 years.
12 years.
Yep.
So that's a pretty good chunk of time. What was some of your more generalized experiences in the ER?
We take care of everything. Everyone's emergency is different. Anywhere from dry scalp to, massive traumas, heart attacks, sepsis patients, pretty much seen everything.
I'm trying to think of the word. What are some of the things that you wound up bringing from the Marine Corps over into nursing?
Discipline, work ethic. Sometimes I'm very direct, so it did hurt me quite a bit, because I'm direct, you know what I mean? And some of the nurses, that I worked with throughout the years didn't like they always said I had a bad attitude, or, I stand, intense, or I'm very intense with my words and how I
Mhm.
speak, but it's just
Were
me.
you intimidating?
I was brought to the manager's office quite often. I've been to HR a few times for being intimidating.
Mhm.
But yeah, I can't help how I stand. I can't help how I look, right?
Right?
You know,
Yeah. I understand.
I've never had a patient complaint.
Right? Yeah.
So
When you wind up taking a look at the paperwork, well, where's the complaints?
yeah,
I get it.
exactly.
Yeah, so kind of dealing with everything that the ER handles. Like, what kind of enjoyment? You must have liked it.
I did, yeah. It kept me busy, and it also suppressed my demons,
Mhm.
because I worked, like, I wanted to learn so much about the ER. There was times where I worked 7 days in a row.
Mhm.
I'd take a day off and I'd work another, because we're always short staffed and you could just pick up hours, so it was endless. And I just suppressed everything with working.
Yeah.
At that time I still hadn't worked out because my shoulder still was a little messed up, and I'd start working out again, but I never really, at that point I knew that I would never be a world champion because I blew that opportunity.
Mhm.
So I didn't really take my training serious, because I'm the type of guy where it's, if you can't go all out, then why? There's no reason.
Mhm.
All or nothing.
You just got to find the right reason.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Um, so I know that you've had a few interactions in the ER and outside of the ER, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of those?
Um, one of the big things that sticks with me in the ED, that I think about today, and it haunts me every year around November, is when the incident happened. We got a call. It was right around 10:30 at night. We never say slow in the ER because it's like, that's bad to say slow.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
we were slow that day.
Yeah.
And we were really kind of hoping to start doing wheelchair races by midnight. So once there's no one in the ER, we'd race each other, because the ER went in a circle, so we'd have wheelchair races. And we were really hoping, we were kind of betting on who was going to win the wheelchair races that night. And there was probably, I think, 3 people in the ED total at this particular time. And I didn't have any patients, and I was up in the trauma areas where we put all the high acuity. So I knew that if something came in bad, I would have, I'd be the one taking care of him or her. And we got a call from Medcom. It was a place up north where a guy was changing a tire on his truck, and he broke the lug nut loose, and he started having chest pain, severe chest pain. So after a little bit, he called 911. When EMS got there, they did a 12 lead EKG, which showed normal sinus rhythm.
which is normal.
Which is normal. Yep.
Yep.
They put an IV in him, protocol, anyone with chest pain, shortness of breath, and they loaded him up in an ambulance, and they gave him a nitro, and his blood pressure had dropped, and they were actually calling to see if we could give a bolus, a fluid bolus, to help bring his blood pressure up, because they just had him on a small drip rate, just for maintenance fluids. So the ER doc was at the medcom and said, yeah, go ahead, just give a 250 bolus. Then, what's your time frame ETA to get here? At that time, I think they had like 10 minutes or something like that. So the doc just said, just, give him 250 bolus, and we'll see you when you get here. So when he got there, the doc was busy with another patient, discharging, I think, or doing so. He was busy. So, I checked in, and I have a really good rapport with the ER docs at the time. And they knew that if I came running out, that they needed to get in there. So we transport him over to the bed. I get him all hooked up, and I get another EKG, which ended up being normal, because I wanted to make sure. We always do another one when they get there. And I noticed that his blood pressure was a little bit lower than what it was initially. And talking to him, he said he didn't have any cardiac history. He's normally healthy. Looking forward to go hunting with his kids in a couple weeks. This is the first part of November.
This is like a middle-aged guy.
A middle-aged guy. He was 41 years old.
Yeah.
Wife and 2 kids. And something just, when you get a gut feeling, after a while you get some experience, you get a gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And before the doc got in there, I said, I went to the doc. I said, Doc, you got to come in here. Something's not right. Will you please just take a look at this guy? And we got in there, and we both looked at each other. He needs to go to CAT scan. Get him a CAT scan. Something's not right. So he didn't respond to the nitro. Doesn't have any cardiac history. They didn't even have any family cardiac history. He's fairly healthy, but you can't always go by that either.
Right.
But,
yeah.
So I called CAT scan, and I said, you need to clear the table. So-and-so's, you got to clear it. I'm coming down now. So we get him on the CAT scan, and I actually had to put a different IV in because he had an IV in his hand. So a CAT scan for, we do contrast.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be closer to your heart because it's a time thing. So they did a bigger gauge IV. So I sunk an 18 gauge in him, got that done, and they sent him through CAT scan. So I'm in the back looking at the screen. And if I can see something, that's not good. And I saw a bunch of fluid built up around the top part of his heart. And instantly I knew that he had abrupted his aorta. He had a tear in it somewhere in his heart area. He had a vessel tore.
A major vessel.
A major vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably had tamponaded, meaning that it hit all the organs around it, and it wasn't allowing it to keep flowing. So it kind of like almost did a compression dressing, like, the blood just kind of kept it there. So any movement, any coughing, anything, any interthoracic pressure is not going to be good,
right.
It's a ticking time bomb. And so we get him back to the room, and I told the doc, I said, you need to really look at these pictures, doc. I said, if I can see it, it's not good. And he looked it up, and he's like, whoa. He instantly called our cardiac thoracics and said, you need to look at this CAT scan. So they're on the phone talking, and at that, I went in, again, get the patient tucked in. I'm talking to his wife and stuff, and they're kind of asking what's going on. I said, well, the doctor will be in here in a minute, and I got to keep a straight face. I can't be in there worried and nervous because that's going to make them nervous. And they're going to think that, hey, what's this joker in here doing? If he's nervous, I don't want him taking care of my husband.
Right.
And I knew any coughing, anything, he could just bleed out any second. So the doc comes in and says, he had a CAT scan, the chest pain. He has a small tear in the top part of his aortic arch coming out of his heart. And the surgeon here doesn't think that he can fix it, that he needs to go to a higher level of care at another facility. So we're making arrangements right now to transport him. And then the wife instantly, they instant panic everywhere, and it's rightly so, And they were talking, we want to fly him out. We want to fly him out. And I told him, I said, ma'am, if we fly him out, it's going to take even longer. I said, because they have to do the checks on the bird, and then they have to fly. They have to get to the bird. And I said, most of the time they stay there overnight, but I said, they still got to do the checks. And by the time they get here, you're going to lose 45 minutes. I said, the crew is right here. I mean, the EMS got there right away for the transfer. We actually got lucky because EMS was there, and the doc talked to him. We talked to him, and they cleaned the rig from the previous transfer right there at the hospital. I actually helped them clean the ambulance out, got it ready for the time to go. And So we loaded up the patient, and I told the doc, I said, can I get some blood just in case something happens? I think we should have some O negative blood on board, and can I have a bag of um, norepinephrine to get, for his blood pressure if he starts dropping his blood pressure? And he's like, that's totally legit. Yep. So he gave me the okay to bring those, bring the blood in the med. We load him up in the ambulance. Right before we wheel him out, his little girl looked at me crying and said, "Please don't let my daddy die." And then his wife was crying and said, "Please don't let my husband die. Please, we want." And I promised them that they're in good hands, and I will not let her. And I got down on my knee and told the daughter, looked her in the eye. I think she was like 5 years old or something. And I said, I'm not going to let your daddy die. You guys are going to have a good hunt. And see, he was going to take her hunting. And they were all talking about, how much, because their family was big into hunting. He was going to take her out for the first time, let him set with him on opening day. And I promised her that her dad was going to do that. And I promised his wife that he was going to come home. We load him up in the ambulance, and, I'm really close to the patient on the side. And, we got the heart monitor on, blood pressure cuff. I said the blood pressure cuff for every 3 minutes. Got the fluids going, and we're having small talk. And he was really looking forward to taking his family hunting because it was really big. And we talked about that. And then he asked me kind of what I did, and I told him I was in the Marine Corps before I became a nurse, and did a couple things, just small talk. And as we're coming up to the halfway point from our place to the next facility, his blood pressure started to drop. Heart rate started to go up a little bit, and I instantly started the blood, but I forgot blood tubing. So I'm like, oh shit. So I holler at the medic. I'm like, where's your tubing at? He goes, oh shit, it's locked up in the cabinet. Where's the keys? They forgot the keys. So I grabbed the cabinet, ripped the door right off, and grabbed the blood tubing, instantly started the blood tubing. I took a manual blood pressure cuff, wrapped it around 2 units. I started 2 units at the same time, pumped it up, for pressure bag, started flowing that. He maintained a little bit with his blood pressure, and literally probably 2 minutes after that, he grabs my arm and reaches up to me, and I look, and his pupil just dilated, and he said, "Don't let me die." And that's when he coded. He braided right down to nothing. I instantly started chest compressions, hollered at the medic, and unfortunately, it happened to be a really bad snowstorm that day as well. So we kind of slid off the road and went into the ditch a little bit. And I helped with the intubation. We called back to the hospital. The receiving unit said, "No, you can't come here because you're still closer to the sending unit." And I was like,
the hospitals.
Yeah, the hospitals. And I was like, not good. This is not good. So I did chest compressions. I knew he probably wasn't going to make it, but I made that promise to his wife and kids that I was going to do everything that I could to, and so I did chest compressions until time we stopped, until literally I was on the cot straddling him doing chest compressions when we brought him in, and I was still doing chest compressions when they came in. And then the doc, we called it, and I had to be the one to tell his kids, wife and kids that he died, and I had to tell him one of his last words. It was rough. That one haunts me. It haunts me bad because I never promised. I never made promises again after that. To family.
Yeah.
It was pretty intense.
Seemed like a perfect storm of bad things just all at the same time.
Yeah. Yep.
If you couldn't have been in the worst place between the two hospitals, and then the storm and just the injury and
forgetting the keys. And I mean, it didn't matter the outcome anyway. I mean, either way. I mean, it's like, unfortunately, I ruined the door on the ambulance, but cabinet or whatever. But yeah, it was. And I talked to the medics that were there, later on, and it affects them too. That incident is still with them to this day too.
Are they still running around?
Yes. Yep,
they're still in service too.
Yep. When I run into them in November, we will talk a little about it, and they say, "Oh yeah, we still think about it."
That's a hard call.
It is. Yeah. Yep.
So that type of, with you being a nurse, that type of situation where you're in an ambulance, part of the transport team, is that normal?
Yeah. Yep. If the patient's real critical, we always send a nurse. Sometimes, well, they have like critical care medics now that can do a lot of the medications and do different things. Because before they were just limited to certain medications.
Okay.
So now they can run like pressors and they can run blood and different things like that. But usually, if they're really critical, if it was my patient, or if I was in an opportunity in a position to take a patient right along with, I always volunteered to go.
Right.
Because I knew the medics. You need help.
Mm-hmm.
You have two medics, right?
Right.
I mean, you really need another set of hands. And if that was my mom, I would want everybody in that back of that damn ambulance that I could.
True. Yeah.
So I always tried to go on. I've done a lot of transfers. A lot. Even the patients I never even took care of. I volunteered to go.
Yeah. I think that presents another opportunity, is just a little bit understanding of the EMS system in general. You putting yourself in that position, because I feel like a lot of nurses don't really open themselves up to that.
Oh, correct. Yeah. You have a whole different perspective because you're seeing it from a different angle.
Yeah.
The medics are your guys' professions. I couldn't do it. You guys, you do the mostest with the leastest. You really do. You have limited resources on that rig, and you only have an opportunity, window of opportunity to get them to the hospital as fast as you can. For anything.
And that's the key, is just getting them to the hospital as quickly as you can, because that's where they need to be mostly. They just need to be turned over to you guys, pretty much.
Care,
yeah. So, anything else coming out of the ER? Yeah, you're not currently in the ER right now.
No. But currently, I took a position on IV team.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Yep. There was another incident that I had that haunts me too. It was my day off, and I got up, and 9 o'clock in the morning, I think is when I got up, and there was a text messages that hey, we need help in the ER. We're really busy. Call if you can come in. And I'm like, okay. I know they're going to put me in fast track if I come in. And fast track is like you have 5 rooms, and they're really turn and burn, so you get the patients in and out. So they're really low level acuity. But the problem is you have to do a lot of teaching too. So sometimes moms will come in with babies with fevers, and they've never given Tylenol before. They'll say they've given Tylenol, and they just don't really know how to give the Tylenol or to dose it. So there's a lot of teaching, and you're really busy, but you're not really like doing like super hands on. You're not in traumas, you're not in the MIs, you're not doing chest compressions, you're not doing
a lot of medicine.
Yeah. You're doing just basic doctor's office type stuff, and a lot of the ER nurses just didn't like doing that because it's just not their thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I called the charge nurse, and I said, okay, where are you going to put me if I come in? And she goes, well, we'd have to put you in fast track. And I said, well, the only way I'm coming in is you guarantee me to get out of fast track at like 1 when another nurse comes on. And she said, yeah, we can do that. If you come in, we'll move you at 1. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go in there, and we start getting patients, and then they load you up really quick, so you have 5 patients that you have to check in right away, but then they left 1 room open. And I was like, why you guys blocked off this room? And she goes, oh, the social worker will come and talk to you first in a minute. I'm busy on the phone taking care. She was the charge nurse was on the phone she was on hold or something doing something. But she said, they'll come get you or come talk to you. So I'm like, well, okay, all right, whatever, Social work, a few minutes later, she comes up to me and she says, hey, we got a young girl coming in. The police have been notified. She got dropped off at school, and she got severely beat in the face. She got, according to her, she's saying that the mom punched her in the face. And I was like, okay, I don't do well. I'm thinking to myself, I don't do well in these situations because not good. Kids are kids are special, man. They're fragile and they're innocent, That instantly pissed me off. Because I thought, I kept thinking, okay, well, I got to calm down. I don't really know what's going on, but I went from a 0 to a 7 right away, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay. So then I found a social worker again. I said, you guys, what's the deal here? What's going on? I said, because is the mom coming? And she said, well, the mom's going to come in. She's been notified, and the boyfriend's going to come in because we really don't know if it was the boyfriend or if it was the mom or any of the real circumstances. So the police want to interview them here. And I was like, okay. And the police actually brought the little girl in
by herself.
She was with a school. I can't remember if it was a member from the school. She was with somebody, but it wasn't her family.
Okay.
It might have been CPS. It might have been that I don't know. I didn't.
Not mom or boyfriend.
Yeah, definitely not mom or boyfriend. So the PA at the time went in there. I went in there with them, and I looked at this little girl, and I'm thinking, I don't have any kids of my own, but if I had to picture me having a beautiful daughter, it literally was the picture perfect. I mean, she had just blonde hair, just cute as could be, innocent, just really, just beautiful, and her face was, her eye was swelled shut. I mean, she was just, just, it was puffed out a couple inches. And I'm like, that wasn't just a punch,
Right.
And the PA asked her what happened, and she said, "Mommy hit me because I grabbed my brother's gloves for school instead of my own." And I lost it, man. I started to cry. I went out of the room, and I went to the manager's office. I said, "You gotta let me go." I said, "Because if the family gets here, I don't know how I'm gonna react.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to just tell me to go home."
Mm-hmm.
"No, you'll be okay. Just don't interact with them." And I said, "How can I not interact with them? They're going to walk right by me, you know?" And as soon as they got there, sure as shit, I lost it and just went off on the mom. I can't remember what I said, but I do remember because the police officers were there waiting, and plus our security was there too. Because at that point they knew that I was kind of amped up, so they just grabbed me. I went outside, and I ended up going home.
Mm-hmm.
I told them, I said, "I can't," And to this day, I just don't know whatever happened to that little girl. I don't know if she went to a foster home or if, how, that was 10 years ago, maybe, so I don't know. Did she graduate school? It's all these questions that I have because just, she was so precious. I just
don't know.
I just don't know.
So did you got sent home? Was that pretty much the end of it from your involvement?
Yeah. That was the end of it. Yeah. I never inquired about it.
I mean, you didn't get any like other repercussions from work or
no. The manager was really cool at the time. She realized that it was best just to get me out of there because I was just wrecked for the rest of the day.
No harm, no foul type.
And I didn't want to take care of anybody critical if my mind was on that situation because I knew I was going to be moved. So usually when they moved me, I always got put in the more critical areas because that's just what they always did.
Right.
And I knew that in the back of my mind, I couldn't. That's why I told her, I was like, there's no way that I can take care of a sick patient. This is on the back of my mind. I need to just go home.
Yeah.
Just get it off.
Now you're distracted.
Yeah. And she agreed, and then I went home with no repercussions. So.
Okay. Well, good. So, how did you get out of the ER?
So, over the years, the patients were getting more aggressive, more demanding, violent, and we'd have to wrestle with them, get them down into 4 points if they came in. Police would come in, and there would be psych patients that would refuse to take their meds or they're court ordered to come in to get evals because they had told their families that they were suicidal or they were really violent. And it just got to the point where I had had enough. I had been assaulted. I've had my nose broke. I've been spit on. I've been bit. I've had blood thrown in my face. Stuff. I said enough. So being a union facility, I just kept looking for that perfect job, and I always wanted to go to IV team. After I started working at the hospital, after like 7-8 years of being an ER nurse, I'd like to go to IV team. I think because I was really good at IVs, and I kind of wanted to do the pick lines, and just do that. Be a little easier on me. And I'm getting older too, so I was like, I don't want to fight with nobody no more. I just want to come in and make a difference in someone's life, but not have to wrestle with anybody,
Right.
So
how long ago was this?
This was in 2021. I think towards the tail end of 2021 is when I actually saw the IV team job and I posted for it, and I actually had the highest seniority. So I posted for it, so I was able to get it.
We want to thank you for tuning in to the Heroes Debrief and sitting down with Tom as he wound up telling us his story. You can continue and listen to the rest of his story in the upcoming episodes, which are linked in the comments below. At this point in time, we want to thank our sponsors, Window World, Bathworks, and Paul Davis for showing their support to our organization. These companies have not only supported Hero Services in the context of sponsoring our events, but show support to our organization as a whole and allowing us to end up having the Heroes Debrief. We ask that you help our organization by liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel, and be sure to hit the bell icon to be notified for future episodes. Connect with Hero Services in the links below on our webpage and our social media accounts.